You know how sometimes you see a game online, looks absolutely amazing, or maybe an influencer is just raving about it, and you think, okay, I got to play that.
Mm-hmm. Happens all the time.
Well, today on the deep dive, we're going to kind of unpack how that first impression might not always be. Well, totally honest.
Yeah, we're getting into some tricky territory.
We are. We're looking at influencer betrayal in gaming stuff like
Mhm.
fake gameplay, those reviews that seem just too positive,
Yeah.
paid reviews, and sometimes even just outright lies.
And for this, you shared a really great source, the script from that show, Pixel and Drama.
That's the one.
And what's really interesting is how they kind of break down the different tactics. It gives you a real look behind the curtain, so to speak.
It really does. And what kind of hit me was that it's not just like one or two bad apples. It almost feels woven into online gaming culture sometimes.
That's a fair point.
So our mission today is basically to understand how audiences get misled and maybe more importantly, give everyone listening some practical ways to spot the red flags.
Yeah, so you can make better calls on where you spend your time, your money.
Exactly. Because when you start looking at the incentives,
Yeah.
you see how this stuff happens.
Definitely. So maybe we should start with that idea of fake gameplay that Pixel and Drama talked about.
Okay, yeah, let's get into that. So fake gameplay. We're not just talking about like someone having an off stream.
No, it's more deliberate.
Right. According to Alex and Jamie over at Pixel and Drama, it's when what you're seeing isn't, a genuine live playthrough. Think pre-recorded reactions.
Or even gameplay bits provided straight from the developers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stuff that looks perfect because it is perfect, not because the player's that good live.
And the level of manufactured excitement they mentioned,
Yeah.
it's presented as totally real.
Mm-hmm.
They had that example, right? The influencer reacting to horror game jump scare.
Oh, yeah, the timing.
The timing was just too perfect. Every
Yeah.
single time. It makes you wonder, was that real fear or, something cooked up in editing?
Yeah, like it felt staged, not spontaneous.
Totally staged. Almost like performance art, like you said, but passed off as reality.
And Pixel and Drama kind of touched on the why, right? Why do this?
Mm-hmm. They suggested, well, maybe laziness, but also the pressure, constant pressure to deliver exciting moments, keep viewers hooked.
Yeah, got to keep those numbers up.
Yeah.
It's probably easier sometimes to just fake a cool moment than wait for one to happen naturally.
And if you think about the whole online content game, more views, more clicks mean more money. So that pressure to always be on, always entertaining, it gets intense.
Definitely.
And like Pixel and Drama pointed out, sometimes the developers themselves might even hand over polished gameplay clips just to make sure the game looks amazing.
Which takes us right to that listener story they shared. Sarah from Texas.
Oh, right. The boss fight.
Yeah. She bought a game because this influencer made a massive deal about struggling with this super hard boss, like really selling the drama.
But the punchline was,
That boss wasn't even in the game when the influencer was supposedly playing it. They added it later.
wow, talk about misleading. That really shows the direct impact, Sarah bought the game based on something totally fake, at least for that version.
Totally. And that kind of flows naturally into the big area where trust gets shaky.
Ah,
Paid reviews.
yes. Sponsorships, endorsements, the whole deal.
Jamie from Pixel and Drama, he put it pretty bluntly, didn't he? Something like, if a 10/10 review kicks off with, thanks to our sponsor.
Yeah, your eyebrow should go up, way up.
Exactly.
I mean, look, influencers partnering with game companies isn't automatically bad. It funds content creation.
Sure, those pay the bills.
But it gets murky when those partnerships aren't super clear, when it's not disclosed properly. The sort of unspoken idea can be that the super positive reviews may be more about the paycheck than the actual game quality.
And Pixel and Drama had that example, GameX, remember?
Vaguely, yeah. What was the deal?
Huge wave of positive reviews right at launch. Loads of influencers all saying amazing things. The hype was just massive.
Okay. Let me guess what happened next.
Yep. Players got the game and riddled with bugs. Technical messes everywhere.
So the suspicion was undisclosed payments.
Pretty much that those glowing reviews weren't entirely organic.
And that really damages trust, not just in that one influencer, but kind of across the board. It makes you question everything.
For sure. And Alex and Jamie pointed out, there are rules about this stuff. Regulations. FTC guidelines require clear disclosure.
Right. You have to say if it's an ad or sponsored content.
But apparently, some folks try to kind of skirt the rules.
Right.
Like maybe hiding the disclosure in tiny font or somewhere really easy to miss.
Ugh, that feels slimy. Technically following the rule, maybe, but definitely not the spirit of transparency.
Totally. Pixel and Drama even did a listener poll on this. Huge majority, like 80%, said they flat out don't trust paid reviews.
Okay, that makes sense. People aren't stupid.
But here's the kicker.
Oh.
They also said many of those same listeners admitted they'd still bought games based on those reviews they supposedly didn't trust.
No way. That's,
Yeah.
wow. That really shows you the power of that influencer marketing, doesn't it? Even when you're skeptical, it can still pull you in.
It's that, like, fear of missing out, maybe? Or just wanting to believe the hype?
Could be. But it's not just about slightly misleading gameplay or shady sponsorships. Pixel and Drama also got into, well, just plain lying.
Yeah, this is where it gets even more deliberate, I guess.
Definitely more concerning. They talked about things like fake giveaways, promising prizes just to get engagement, but then nothing.
Yeah, never actually giving anything away or just manufacturing hype for a game they know isn't that great.
Oh, and the thing about giving indie games a quick shout out, like for good PR points, but then just radio silence, never mentioning it again.
Right. Jamie had that great example, the influencer calling some game life-changing.
Okay.
And then crickets. Never brought it up again. It just screams performance.
Performative support.
And then you've got the really manipulative stuff, like faking drama.
Oh, yeah, the fake beef between creators or the I'm quitting YouTube announcements.
Only to pop back up a week later with a surprise I'm back video.
Wow.
All just for clicks and views.
It's exhausting. But, you know, what was kind of encouraging was that Pixel and Drama also mentioned that audiences are getting smarter about this.
Yeah, people are catching on.
Platforms like Reddit, other forums, people share info, call out the BS. It creates a bit of accountability.
Makes it harder to get away with the really obvious scams, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So this all leads to the big question, right, for everyone listening. How do you actually spot this stuff? How do you get better at identifying the BS, as Pixel and Drama called it?
Right. And they had some decent tips. Called themselves two cynics, which felt about right.
Yeah. Okay, so for fake gameplay, what was Jamie's advice?
He said, look for moments that seem just too perfect, like suspiciously smooth.
Okay.
Reuse clips may be passed off as live.
Yeah.
And definitely watch those reactions, especially jump scares. If they feel perfectly timed, maybe they are pre-recorded.
Gotcha. Anything else?
Oh, and watch out for glitches that somehow don't actually mess up the stream or the gameplay flow. Might be staged.
Good points. And what about spotting potentially biased paid reviews? Alex covered that.
Yeah, Alex said, look for that relentless positivity. Just nonstop praise, zero mention of any downsides or flaws.
Because even the best games have something you could critique, right?
Exactly. A real review usually has some balance. So if it's all sunshine and rainbows,
Yeah.
maybe be a little wary.
And compare reviews. That's crucial. Don't rely on just one influencer. If everyone's saying the exact same overly positive things, especially right at launch.
Caution advised.
Ah.
And Jamie had one more very direct tip.
Oh, yeah.
Just Google the influencer's name plus the word scandal.
Huh. Brutal, but probably effective. See if they have a history.
Yeah, past behavior can be, an indicator. So after all this,
Yeah.
fake gameplay, shady reviews, outright lies. The big question Pixel and Drama left hanging was, can these influencers ever really win back trust?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah. Can they rebuild that bridge with their audience once it's been burned?
Well, their take seemed to be maybe, but with some big ifs.
Like what?
Transparency. Got to be number one. Owning mistakes, being upfront about sponsorships.
No more hiding stuff.
Exactly. And actually stopping the deceptive practices has to be a real change, a real commitment to being honest with viewers, not just saying sorry and doing it again.
Totally agree. And the hosts over there, they did make a point of saying, there are tons of honest creators doing great work.
That's important too. It's not everyone.
No, definitely not. But ultimately, I guess it comes down to us, the audience, right? We need to have that critical eye, that healthy dose of skepticism, especially when something seems too good to be true or a review is just unbelievably positive.
Absolutely. Which brings us maybe to a final thought for everyone listening.
Go on.
We've been deep in the gaming world today, obviously, but think about how these skills, spotting bias, looking for proof, comparing sources, questioning motives, apply everywhere online.
Good point. It's not just games.
Not at all. News, product reviews, lifestyle stuff, everything. Learning to navigate all that information critically is just, well, it's a vital skill these days, isn't it?
Couldn't agree more. Something definitely worth thinking about.